Captain Zethkar gripped the command chair as his ship shuddered through space. The stellar dominance had seen better days, and right now, those days felt very far away. 3 weeks ago, his heavy cruiser had been the pride of the Valorian Empire. Fleet, but now it limped through the void like a wounded animal. The hegemony raiders had done their work well during that brutal fight near the Outer Rim. The crystalline hull that made Valorian ships famous across the galaxy lay in ruins along the port side. Jagged cracks ran through the once perfect blue, surface like spiderwebs. 3 of his main engine cores barely functioned, and his navigation systems kept giving false readings. Worst of all, his crew was getting nervous, and nervous Valorians made poor decisions. "Captain, we are receiving a transmission from the human station," said his communications officer, Krextal. The young Valorian's 4 arms moved quickly across his console as he worked to clean up the signal. "They are offering emergency docking in Bay 7. Zethkar had heard stories about human repair facilities, but had never used one himself. The Valorian Empire preferred to keep their advanced technology away from other species, especially humans, who had a reputation for asking too many questions. But right now, he had little choice. His ship needed help, and the nearest Valorian base was 2 weeks away through dangerous space. "Accept their offer," he said, and settled back to watch as the human station grew larger on his main screen. Orbital station. Perseus hung in space above Earth's moon like a giant metal flower. Unlike the sleek organic curves of Valorian architecture or the harsh geometric shapes favored by the hegemony, this human structure looked almost friendly. Docking bays opened like welcoming arms, and running lights blinked in patterns that seemed more decorative than functional. As the stellar dominance slowly maneuvered into bay, 7 Zethkar noticed something unusual. A human figure stood waiting at the airlock wearing what appeared to be a dress uniform. In his experience, station commanders never personally greeted arriving ships, especially damaged alien vessels that might bring trouble. The docking process completed with barely a tremor. Human technology might look primitive compared to Valorian crystal matrices, but it worked smoothly. Zethkar straightened his ceremonial armor and prepared to meet whatever human bureaucrat had been assigned to process his paperwork. The airlock cycled open and warm air flowed into his ship carrying unfamiliar scents. The human waiting for him stood perhaps 6 feet tall with graying hair and kind eyes. His uniform bore the insignia of a station commander, but his manner seemed surprisingly informal. "Captain Zethkar, welcome to Station Perseus," the human said, with a slight smile. "I'm Commander Jake Morrison. I received your distress call, and I want you to know we'll take good care of your ship." Zethkar blinked his large eyes in surprise. In Valorian culture, a station commander would never personally greet a visiting captain, especially one from a species they barely knew. Such meetings were handled by junior officers, while commanders remained in their offices, managing important business. "Commander Morrison." Zethkar replied carefully, "I appreciate your station's assistance. My ship requires extensive repairs." "I can see that," Morrison said, glancing at the damage reports on his tablet. "Looks like you tangled with hegemony. Raiders, those bastards have been hitting ships all along the Outer Rim lately." He paused, and his expression grew more serious. "My chief engineer, Lisa Park, is already reviewing your damage assessments. We'll have you spaceworthy again soon." Before Zethkar could respond, a smaller human approached them. She wore grease-stained coveralls and carried a large tablet covered with technical readouts. Despite her casual appearance, she moved with the confidence of someone who knew her business. "Captain Zethkar, I'm Lisa Park, Chief Engineer," she said, extending a hand in the human greeting gesture. "I've been studying your ship's specifications, and I have to say Valorian crystal hull technology is fascinating. I've never worked on it before, but I've read every technical paper I could find." Zethkar stared at the small human female. In most species, engineering work was considered beneath the notice of senior officers, yet this chief engineer spoke to him directly without any formal protocols. Even more surprising, she admitted her lack of experience instead of pretending knowledge she didn't possess. "You have studied Valorian technology," he said more as a statement than a question. "Whatever I could get my hands on," Lisa replied with enthusiasm. "The harmonic resonance principles behind your hull matrices are brilliant, but I want to make sure I understand the specific frequencies your ship uses. Every Valorian vessel has slightly different calibrations, right?" Zethkar felt his mandibles click together in amazement. This human engineer was asking him technical questions about his own ship. In every other repair facility he had visited, the local technicians simply followed standardized procedures without consulting the ship's captain. They treated vessels like broken machines rather than unique creations with individual characteristics. "That is correct," he said slowly. "Each ship's crystal matrix is grown specifically for that vessel. The harmonic frequencies must be precisely matched or the repairs will fail." Lisa's eyes lit up with genuine interest. "That's what I thought. Would you mind if I asked you some questions while we work? I want to make sure we get this exactly right." Commander Morrison nodded approvingly. "Lisa's the best engineer in human space, Captain. Your ship couldn't be in better hands." He glanced at his own tablet. "I've cleared Bay 7 for as long as you need it. No rush and no extra charges for extended stays." Zethkar found himself in completely unfamiliar territory. These humans treated him not as a customer to be processed, but as a guest to be welcomed. Their genuine interest in his ship and their willingness to learn challenged everything he thought he knew about interspecies commerce. The next morning, Zethkar watched the human repair crew begin their work with growing fascination. He had expected the standard approach used by most species, where technicians followed established procedures and replaced damaged components with identical parts. Instead, he observed something entirely different. Chief Mechanic Tony Rodriguez stood beneath the damaged section of crystalline hull, studying the fracture patterns with intense concentration. The stocky human ran his fingers along the cracks, as if reading a story written in broken crystal. His team of mechanics waited nearby, but Rodriguez took his time examining every detail. "See here, Captain," Rodriguez called out when he noticed Zethkar watching. "These stress patterns tell us exactly how the damage occurred. The hegemony weapons hit you from 3 different angles, but the crystal didn't just break randomly. It failed along specific molecular lines." Zethkar approached the work area curious despite himself. Valorian engineers typically focused on restoring damaged components to their original specifications. They rarely spent time analyzing the nature of the damage itself. "The failure patterns are predictable," Zethkar said. "Valorian crystal matrices are designed to break cleanly when overstressed to prevent catastrophic structural collapse." Rodriguez nodded eagerly. "Exactly what I thought. But look at this section here." He pointed to an area where the crystal had held together despite severe damage. "The molecular alignment is different, stronger. Was this part of the hull modified somehow?" Zethkar examined the area Rodriguez indicated. The human was correct. This section had been reinforced during the ship's last major overhaul using an experimental technique developed by Valorian engineers. The fact that Rodriguez could identify the modification by visual inspection alone impressed him greatly. "You have good eyes," Zethkar said. "That section was strengthened using enhanced molecular bonding. Most engineers would not notice the difference." "Most engineers don't look close enough," Rodriguez replied with a grin. "Now here's what I'm thinking. Instead of just replacing the damaged sections with standard crystal matrices, what if we apply that enhanced bonding technique to the entire hull? Your ship would be 40% more resistant to energy weapons." Zethkar stared at the human mechanic. The suggestion was both technically sound and completely unexpected. Rodriguez was proposing to improve Valorian technology using their own advanced techniques, but applying them more broadly than Valorian engineers had considered. The cost of such modifications would be substantial, Zethkar said carefully. Rodriguez shrugged. Same materials, same work time. The only difference is the molecular alignment process. No extra charge, no extra charge, Zethkar repeated. But you would be improving my ship beyond its original specifications. We learned something new about crystal matrices. You get a better ship, Rodriguez said. Seems fair to me. While the hull repairs proceeded, systems specialist Karen White tackled the damaged navigation computer. Zethkar found her working in the ship's computer core surrounded by holographic displays showing complex code structures. Captain, I found something interesting, Karen said, without looking up from her work. The hegemony attack damaged more than just your hardware. They planted a viral weapon in your navigation system. Zethkar felt his blood chill. Hegemony cyber weapons were notoriously difficult to detect and could corrupt jump calculations, causing ships to emerge from hyperspace inside stars or planets. Can you remove it? He asked. Already done, Karen replied. But I'm not stopping there. I'm reverse engineering this virus to understand how it works. This could help us develop countermeasures for other ships. Zethkar watched as Karen dissected the malicious code with the enthusiasm of a scientist studying a new species. Most technicians would have simply deleted the virus and restored the system from backup files. Karen treated it as a learning opportunity. You are studying hegemony cyber warfare techniques, he observed. Someone has to, Karen said. These viral weapons are becoming more sophisticated. The better we understand them, the better we can protect against them. She paused to show him a section of code. Look at this recursion pattern. It's designed to hide in secondary memory buffers and reactivate during jump calculations. Very clever and very dangerous, Zethkar added. Absolutely. But now that we know how it works, we can create detection algorithms. Karen smiled with satisfaction. By tomorrow, I'll have a patch that can identify and neutralize this type of virus automatically. Zethkar spent the day observing the human crew and their unconventional methods. Engineer Lisa Park didn't just repair the damaged crystal matrices, she improved the harmonic resonance by adjusting the frequency generators. Mechanic Rodriguez reinforced the hull beyond original specifications while adding decorative etching that actually strengthened the molecular bonds. Technician Karen White turned a cyber attack into a research opportunity that would benefit ships throughout human space. The human approach baffled him. Every other repair facility operated on strict schedules and standardized procedures. Work was completed efficiently, but without innovation or improvement. These humans treated each problem as a unique puzzle worth solving, often going far beyond minimum requirements. As the day ended, Commander Morrison joined Zethkar on the observation deck overlooking the repair bay. The stellar dominance looked better than it had in months, and the work was only half complete. Your crew works differently than others, Zethkar said. Morrison nodded. We believe in doing things right, not just doing them fast. Your ship deserves our best effort. But why? Zethkar asked. I am not paying you for improvements only for repairs, Morrison considered the question. Because we can. Because it's the right thing to do. Because every ship that leaves here carries a little bit of human craftsmanship into the galaxy. He paused. And because we enjoy the challenge. Each vessel teaches us something new. Zethkar watched his ship being transformed by human hands and human ingenuity. For the first time in his long career, he began to understand why other captains spoke of human repair facilities with such enthusiasm. It wasn't just about fixing what was broken. It was about making everything better. On the second day of repairs, Second Officer Krextal began showing signs of respiratory distress. The young Valorian's breathing became labored, and his normally blue skin took on a grayish tint. Zethkar watched with growing concern as his officer struggled to perform basic duties. Captain, I feel strange, Krextal said during the morning briefing. My lungs burn, and I cannot take deep breaths. Zethkar immediately suspected an allergic reaction. Valorian physiology could handle most alien environments, but occasionally unexpected compounds caused severe responses. He had seen similar symptoms before when crew members encountered certain industrial chemicals. "Report to the medical bay immediately," Zethkar ordered. "I will contact the station medical officer." Dr. Amy Chen arrived within minutes of receiving the emergency call. The human doctor was younger than Zethkar had expected, with short black hair and quick, intelligent eyes. She moved with calm efficiency as she examined Krextal using both human and portable Valorian medical equipment. "His respiratory system is definitely inflamed," Dr. Chen said after completing her examination. "All the symptoms point to an allergic reaction, but I need to identify the trigger." She paused thoughtfully. "Has he been anywhere unusual on the station?" "Only the common areas and the docking bay," Zethkar replied. "The same places I have been without problems," Dr. Chen frowned. "Individual reactions can vary even within the same species. Let me run some tests on the station's atmosphere." She worked quickly with her medical scanner, taking air samples from different locations. While Dr. Chen investigated, Krextal's condition worsened. His breathing became increasingly difficult, and his skin color continued to fade. Zethkar felt helpless watching his young officer suffer while uncertain about human medical capabilities. "Captain, I think I found the problem," Dr. Chen announced after an hour of intensive research. "Your officer is reacting to trace compounds in our air filtration system. We use a particular type of biofilter that creates microscopic organic particles. They're harmless to most species but toxic to Valorian respiratory systems." Zethkar studied the medical data Dr. Chen showed him. The analysis was thorough and the conclusion seemed sound. Most station medical officers would have prescribed breathing apparatus and confined the affected crew member to quarters until departure. "Can you provide breathing equipment?" Zethkar asked. "I can, but I have a better idea," Dr. Chen said. "Give me a few hours to work on this." She disappeared for the rest of the day, leaving Krextal in the care of a human medical technician who monitored his condition closely. Zethkar wondered what the doctor could possibly accomplish that standard medical procedures could not. His answer came that evening when Dr. Chen returned with environmental engineer Pete Sullivan. The tall human carried several pieces of equipment that Zethkar did not recognize. "Captain, we've prepared a solution," Dr. Chen announced. "Instead of making your crew adapt to our environment, we're going to adapt our environment to you." Zethkar followed them to Section C of the station, where Sullivan was installing new atmospheric processors. The engineer worked with practiced efficiency, replacing standard human equipment with modified versions designed specifically for Valorian physiology. "We've created a Valorian-compatible zone," Sullivan explained as he calibrated the new systems. "Different air filtration temperature controls suited to your preferences and lighting adjusted to match your homeworld's spectrum." Dr. Chen checked on Krextal as the new atmosphere took effect. Within minutes, the young Valorian's breathing improved, and his skin color began returning to normal. "You modified an entire section of your station for us," Zethkar said in amazement. "This must have been expensive and time-consuming." Dr. Chen looked puzzled. "You're our guests. Making you comfortable isn't a favor, it's basic hospitality." The concept struck Zethkar like a physical blow. These humans considered alien visitors to be guests rather than customers. The distinction represented a fundamental difference in thinking that he had never encountered in decades of space travel. That evening, Commander Morrison invited the entire Valorian crew to join the human staff for dinner in the station's recreation area. Zethkar expected a formal diplomatic meal with careful protocols and polite conversation. Instead, he found himself in a casual gathering where humans and Valorians mixed freely. Chief Mechanic Rodriguez regaled the group with stories of catastrophic repair failures, including one incident where he accidentally magnetized an entire cargo bay. Engineer Lisa Park discussed crystal matrix theory with Krextal, who had recovered enough to engage in technical conversations. Environmental specialist Karen White taught several Valorians a human card game that involved considerable shouting and laughter. Captain Zethkar, tell us about Valorian fleet life, Morrison said as the evening wound down. We don't often get to meet officers from the Empire. Zethkar found himself sharing stories of deep space exploration and the challenges of commanding crystal ships. The humans listened with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions about Valorian culture and technology. In return, they told tales of human space adventures and the early days of Earth's expansion to the stars. The informal atmosphere created bonds that transcended species barriers. Zethkar discovered that humans faced many of the same challenges. As Valorians, despite their different technologies and cultures, young crew members struggled with homesickness. Experienced officers worried about making the right decisions. Engineers took pride in solving impossible problems. As the evening ended, Zethkar realized something profound had happened. For the first time in his career, he had spent social time with aliens without feeling the need to maintain diplomatic distance. These humans had welcomed him and his crew not as foreign dignitaries, but as fellow spacers sharing common experiences. Walking back to his ship through the Valorian-compatible section of the station, Zethkar reflected on the day's events. Dr. Chen could have simply provided breathing equipment and considered her duty complete. Instead, she had worked with Sullivan to create an environment where his crew could be truly comfortable. Morrison could have processed their repair request and maintained professional distance. Instead, he had opened his station's social spaces and encouraged genuine interaction. The human approach to hospitality went far beyond business courtesy. They treated visitors as honored guests, deserving of respect and consideration. Such behavior was unprecedented in Zethkar's experience, and he found it both touching and impressive. 6 months after leaving Station Perseus, Captain Zethkar found himself at Nexus Station, a neutral trading post on the edge of civilized space. The stellar dominance had performed flawlessly during the intervening months thanks to the human modifications. His crystal hull showed no stress fractures despite several difficult missions, and the enhanced navigation system had prevented 2 potential disasters. While reviewing supply manifests in the station, Cantina Zethkar noticed a familiar ship docking at the main platform. The angular design and copper-colored hull markings identified it as a Nexari trade vessel. As he watched the ship maneuver into position, he spotted telltale modifications that could only have come from human engineers. The quantum storage pods had been upgraded with human efficiency improvements. The engine nacelles bore the distinctive harmonic dampeners that human technicians favored. Most telling of all, the ship's hull carried micro-etchings that served both decorative and structural purposes, exactly like the work Tony Rodriguez had done on the stellar dominance. Captain Veltar of the Nexari Trade Guild entered the cantina an hour later. The insectoid captain stood nearly 7 feet tall with 4 compound eyes and mandibles that clicked when he spoke. Nexari were known throughout the galaxy as shrewd traders who valued efficiency above all else. Captain Zethkar, Veltar said, approaching the Valorian table. I saw your ship in the docking registry. The stellar dominance looks magnificent. Thank you, Captain Veltar, Zethkar replied. Your own vessel appears to have received some interesting modifications. Veltar's compound eyes glittered with what Zethkar had learned to recognize as Nexari satisfaction. 3 visits to human repair facilities in the past 4 months. My cargo capacity has increased by 20%, and fuel efficiency is up 30%. You have been to human stations, Zethkar said more as a statement than a question. Station. Perseus twice, and Luna Base once, Veltar confirmed. That human engineer Lisa Park is remarkable. She studied my quantum storage technology for 2 days, asking questions I had never considered. Then she showed me how to optimize the containment fields using principles from human physics. Zethkar leaned forward with interest. She improved Nexari quantum storage. Improved is an understatement, Veltar said, his mandibles clicking rapidly with excitement. She discovered that our traditional field configurations were operating at only 60% efficiency. Her modifications doubled my cargo capacity without requiring larger storage units. The Nexari captain paused to order a drink from a passing server, then continued his story. But the improvements were not the most remarkable part. The humans actually asked if they could study my technology. No other species has ever shown curiosity about Nexari engineering. Most consider our methods too complex to understand, and you allowed them access to proprietary technology, Zethkar asked. Of course, Veltar replied. In exchange for their innovations, I shared our quantum mathematics. Both species benefited. From the knowledge exchange, Zethkar considered this information carefully. The concept of mutual technological exchange was nearly unknown in galactic commerce. Most species guarded their advanced technologies, jealously trading only basic information, even with allies. The humans requested knowledge sharing, he said. They were genuinely curious about how quantum storage works, Veltar explained. Engineer, Park said understanding our technology might help them develop better cargo systems for other species. She was not trying to steal secrets, she wanted to learn and improve. Word of human repair excellence spread through the trading post like wildfire. Ship captains gathered in small groups discussing their experiences with human engineers. A Tellarite freighter captain praised the modifications made to his warp core. A Vulcan survey ship commander spoke approvingly of human attention to detail. Even a Klingon warrior mentioned grudging respect for human craftsmanship. Zethkar listened to these conversations with growing amazement. Ships were making detours through human space specifically to access repair facilities. Captains shared recommendations like traders discussing profitable routes. The humans had somehow created a reputation that transcended political boundaries and species prejudices. 3 days later, a new arrival caused considerable commotion in the docking bay. A sleek black ship with no identifying markings requested emergency services. The vessel's design suggested hegemony origin, but carried no official insignia. Such ships usually meant intelligence operatives or deep cover agents. The ship's captain proved to be a changeling named Tethmor, whose shape-shifting abilities made species identification impossible. Changelings worked exclusively as spies, and infiltrators making their presence at a neutral station highly suspicious. I require information about human repair facilities, Tethmor announced to the gathered captains. My superiors wish to understand why so many ships are visiting human space. Captain Veltar exchanged glances with Zethkar. Both understood the implications. If the hegemony was investigating human repair stations, it could mean trouble for everyone involved. Human engineers do good work, Zethkar said carefully. Their reputation is well-deserved. I have heard they form emotional attachments to their clients, Tethmor said, his form shifting slightly as he spoke. They remember individual preferences and maintain personal relationships with ship captains. My psychological profiles suggest this behavior is genuine rather than calculated for business advantage. The statement hung in the air like a challenge. Zethkar realized the changeling was testing their responses to determine if the rumors about human behavior were accurate. They treat visitors well, Veltar said diplomatically. Professional service and quality workmanship. Tethmor studied the Nexari captain intently. Nothing more than business relationships. Nothing more. Veltar confirmed, but Zethkar heard the uncertainty in his voice. That evening, Zethkar met privately with Veltar to discuss the changeling's questions. Both captains understood they had been interrogated by a hegemony agent seeking intelligence about human operations. They are worried about something, Veltar observed. Changelings do not investigate repair facilities unless those facilities threaten hegemony interests. The humans threaten no one, Zethkar replied. They fix ships and treat customers well. What danger could that pose? Perhaps that is exactly what worries them, Veltar suggested. The hegemony rules through fear and intimidation. a species that gains influence through kindness and competence, represents something they cannot understand or counter. Zethkar pondered this insight as he returned to his ship. The human approach to business challenged fundamental assumptions about galactic commerce and international relations. By treating customers as honored guests and focusing on genuine improvement rather than mere profit, they had created something unprecedented. A reputation based on excellence rather than power. Influence built through service rather than threat. The test of human principles came sooner than anyone expected. 3 weeks after the encounter at Nexus Station, emergency broadcasts began flooding subspace channels. A hegemony destroyer was requesting immediate assistance after suffering catastrophic damage during a patrol mission near the neutral zone. The Iron Talon had apparently struck a gravitic mine left over from an ancient war. The explosion had crippled their main engines and caused severe hull breaches. With life support failing and no hegemony bases within range, the ship faced destruction unless they could reach a repair facility quickly. Captain Vexhal of the Iron Talon transmitted his distress call on all frequencies, including those monitored by human stations. The hegemony commander made no attempt to hide his ship's military nature or his own identity as a warrior officer known for his aggressive tactics against Alliance vessels. Commander Jake Morrison received the distress call at Station Perseus while reviewing repair schedules with Chief Engineer Lisa Park. The request presented a complex political situation that could have serious consequences for human hegemony relations. "Sir, we have a hegemony destroyer requesting emergency docking," Communications Officer Brad Cooper reported. "The Iron Talon suffered mine damage and has multiple casualties." Morrison studied the tactical display showing the approaching hegemony vessel. The destroyer was indeed badly damaged, with entire sections venting atmosphere and debris trailing behind like a metal comet. Standard military protocol would be to refuse docking to potential enemy vessels, especially those commanded by known, hostile officers. "Sir, the Iron Talon is a warship," Security Chief Dan Miller pointed out. "Captain Vexahal has engaged Alliance forces multiple times. This could be a trap." Morrison considered the warning carefully. Vexhal was indeed a dangerous enemy whose ship had attacked human vessels during border skirmishes. Allowing such a ship to dock represented a significant security risk. "All ships in distress are welcome here," Morrison announced after a moment of thought. "Clear Bay 3 and prepare for emergency docking. Full medical teams on standby." "Sir, are you certain?" Miller asked. "This violates standard security protocols." "A ship in distress is a ship in distress," Morrison replied firmly. "Politics don't matter in my repair bay." The Iron Talon limped into Station Perseus like a dying predator seeking shelter. The hegemony destroyer was larger and more heavily armed than most vessels that visited human stations. Its dark hull and aggressive weapon arrays created an ominous presence in the normally peaceful repair bay. Captain Vexhal came aboard with a security escort expecting hostility or at minimum suspicious treatment. The hegemony officer stood over 7 feet tall with gray skin and cybernetic implants that enhanced his natural predatory appearance. His reputation as a ruthless commander preceded him throughout Alliance space. Instead of armed guards and interrogation, Rooms Vexhal encountered the same professional courtesy shown to every visitor. Commander Morrison met him personally at the airlock, while Chief Engineer Park reviewed damage reports with obvious concern for the injured crew. "Captain Vexhal, welcome to Station Perseus," Morrison said, extending his hand in the traditional human greeting. "We understand you have casualties and critical damage. My medical team is standing by." Vexhal stared at the human commander suspiciously. "You know who I am?" "I know you're a fellow spacer in need of help," Morrison replied calmly. "That's all that matters here." Dr. Amy Chen immediately began treating injured hegemony crew members without regard for their military affiliation or past actions. She worked alongside her medical team to stabilize the most critical cases while directing others to appropriate treatment areas. "Doctor, some of these soldiers have fought against human forces," medical technician Steve Barnes pointed out quietly. "Right now, they're patients," Dr. Chen replied as she worked to save a young hegemony officer. "That's all I need to know, Chief." Engineer Lisa Park studied the destroyer's damage with the same intense focus she brought to every repair challenge. The gravitic mine had torn through multiple hull sections and damaged several critical systems, including the main computer core. "Captain, the mine damage is extensive but repairable," Park reported to Vexahall. "We'll need to replace 3 major hull sections and rebuild your port engine nacelle. The work will take about a week." "A week," Vexahall repeated. "We cannot remain here that long. This is enemy territory. This is neutral space during repairs," Morrison corrected. "No one will bother you here." Environmental specialist Karen White discovered something troubling while analyzing the destroyer's life support systems. The hegemony ship's atmospheric processors had been slowly poisoning the crew with trace toxins, not from battle damage, but from a design flaw that had existed for years. "Captain, this is serious," Karen explained to Vexhall as she showed him her analysis. "Your life support system has been gradually contaminating your air supply. The toxin levels are still within survivable limits, but long-term exposure could cause permanent health problems." Vexhall examined the technical data with growing concern. "Our engineers certified this system as safe. They probably never thought to test for this specific compound," Karen said. "It's a subtle problem that would take months or years to manifest symptoms. I can fix it, but the modifications will take some time." "Why would you help us?" Vexhall demanded. "Our species are enemies." Karen looked genuinely puzzled by the question. "Because the problem exists and I know how to solve it. Preventing suffering doesn't require political justification." Dr. Chen took the life support discovery seriously and began comprehensive medical examinations of the entire hegemony crew. Her research revealed that the atmospheric contamination had indeed affected their health in ways that hegemony medical officers had failed to detect. "Captain, your crew shows signs of chronic toxin exposure," Dr. Chen reported to Vexhall. "The contamination has been subtle but persistent. I can provide treatments that will reverse most of the damage." "You would share medical knowledge with enemy soldiers?" Vexhall asked. "I would share medical knowledge with anyone who needs it," Dr. Chen replied. "Healing isn't a weapon to be withheld from opponents." Over the following week, the hegemony crew experienced something unprecedented in their military careers. Human engineers worked alongside hegemony technicians, sharing techniques and comparing approaches. Medical staff provided treatment without regard for political affiliation. Station personnel treated enemy soldiers as honored guests rather than potential threats. Chief Mechanic Tony Rodriguez discovered ways to improve the destroyer's shield harmonics that could increase defensive effectiveness by 30%. Instead of keeping the improvements secret, he shared them freely with hegemony engineers. "Why do you help us improve our weapons?" hegemony engineer Kreltos asked suspiciously. "Better shields mean fewer casualties in battle," Rodriguez explained. "Soldiers on both sides go home to their families." The concept confused the hegemony crew, who had been taught that enemies must be destroyed or dominated. The idea that opponents could show genuine concern for each other's welfare challenged their fundamental beliefs about warfare and diplomacy. Captain Vexhall spent his final evening at Station Perseus in the observation lounge watching human technicians put finishing touches on his repaired destroyer. The Iron Talon looked better than it had in years, with gleaming hull plates and upgraded systems that exceeded original specifications. Commander Morrison joined him at the viewing window carrying 2 cups of coffee, a human beverage that Vexhall had developed a taste for during his stay. The bitter drink somehow suited his mood as he contemplated the week's experiences. "Your ship is ready, Captain," Morrison said, settling into a nearby chair. Chief Park says the new systems are testing perfectly. You should have no trouble reaching hegemony space. Vexhal accepted the coffee and stared at the dark liquid. Commander, I must ask you something that has troubled me all week. Why did you help us? My ship has attacked human vessels. I have killed human crews in battle. You know this yet. You treat me as an honored guest. Morrison considered the question seriously. Because that's who we choose to be. Your past actions don't change our obligation to help ships in distress. But we are enemies, Vexhal insisted. Your government and mine exist in a state of Cold War. Today's ally could be tomorrow's target. Our governments might have differences, but you and I are both ship captains trying to keep our crews alive, Morrison replied. That creates a bond stronger than politics. Vexhal struggled to understand. The human perspective. In hegemony, culture strength demanded the destruction of weakness, and mercy was considered a fatal flaw. Yet these humans had shown mercy without becoming weak. They had helped their enemies without losing their own advantage. Your people confuse me, Vexahal admitted. You possess advanced technology and capable military forces, yet you choose to repair ships rather than destroy them. You could have detained my vessel and crew as prisoners of war. Instead, you improved our capabilities and sent us home stronger than before. Morrison smiled slightly. Maybe that's exactly why we do it. When you return to Hegemony Command, what will you report about human intentions? That you are either very foolish or very wise, Vexhal said. I have not determined which. The next morning brought departure preparations and final system checks. Dr. Amy Chen provided the Hegemony crew with detailed medical reports and treatment recommendations for ongoing care. Her research on the life support contamination had revealed health problems that Hegemony doctors had missed for years. Captain, I'm transmitting my findings to your medical staff, Dr. Chen told Vexhal as she handed him a data chip. This information could save lives throughout your fleet if your engineers check other ships for similar contamination. You are sharing research that could benefit hegemony military operations, Vexhal observed. I'm sharing research that could save lives, Dr. Chen corrected. Medical knowledge belongs to everyone who needs it. Environmental specialist Karen White had worked around the clock to solve the life support problems and develop detection methods for identifying similar issues. Her countermeasures would protect not only the Iron Talon, but any other ship using comparable systems. Captain, this diagnostic program will help you monitor atmospheric contamination in real time, Karen explained as she demonstrated the new equipment. Run it monthly, and you'll catch problems before they affect crew health. Chief Engineer Lisa Park presented Vexahal with complete technical specifications for all the improvements made to his ship. The data included not only repair procedures, but enhancement techniques that could be applied to other hegemony vessels. Captain, these modifications will work on any ship using similar systems, Park said. Your engineers should be able to adapt them easily. Vexhal stared at the technical data in amazement. The humans were giving him military intelligence that could benefit the entire hegemony fleet. Shield improvements, engine modifications, detection systems, and medical countermeasures worth millions of credits in research and development. This information is valuable, he said. Why do you share it freely? Because we learned things too, Park replied. Your ship's design gave us insights into hegemony engineering that will help us develop better systems. Knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied. Chief Mechanic Tony Rodriguez had bonded with several hegemony technicians during the repair work. The gruff human mechanic had taught them advanced metallurgy techniques while learning about hegemony, weapon systems. Captain, your engineers know their business, Rodriguez told Vexahal. They taught me some tricks about power distribution that I'll use on other ships. Good trade. As the Iron Talon prepared to depart Station Perseus, Vexhal realized he faced an unprecedented situation. He commanded a hegemony warship that had been repaired, improved, and upgraded by enemy forces who refused to accept payment beyond standard fees. His crew carried medical treatments and technical knowledge that could benefit thousands of hegemony personnel. Most troubling of all, he found himself genuinely grateful to the humans who had helped him. Gratitude was not an emotion that hegemony warriors were supposed to feel toward enemies, yet he could not deny the feeling. "Commander Morrison," Vexhall said during the final departure ceremony, "I want you to know that your actions here will not be forgotten. When I submit my report to Hegemony Command, I will describe exactly what happened at this station." "Just tell them the truth, Captain," Morrison replied. "That's all we ask." "The truth may be more dangerous to your people than lies," Vexhall warned. "If hegemony leadership understands how you operate, they may see you as a greater threat than before." Morrison nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe, but hiding who we are won't make us safer in the long run. Better to be honest and deal with the consequences." The Iron Talon departed Station Perseus with a fully repaired hull, upgraded systems, and a crew that carried new perspectives on human capabilities. As the destroyer accelerated toward hegemony space, Captain Vexhall began composing the most difficult report of his military career. How could he explain to his superiors that humans posed a threat not through superior weapons or aggressive tactics, but through their capacity for kindness? How could he describe a species that won loyalty by earning it rather than demanding it? How could he convey that human strength came not from their ability to destroy enemies, but from their willingness to help them? The report would challenge everything hegemony leadership believed about power and politics. It would suggest that mercy could be a form of strength and that generosity might be more effective than intimidation. Such ideas bordered on heresy within hegemony military doctrine. Yet Vexhall knew he had no choice but to tell the truth. His honor as an officer demanded accurate reporting even when the facts contradicted official ideology. The humans had trusted him with their friendship despite his hostile past. The least he could do was trust them with his honesty. The classified report from Captain Vexhall arrived at Hegemony Supreme Command 3 weeks after his departure from Station Perseus. The document was immediately flagged for highest priority review due to its unusual content and potential implications. For military strategy, Admiral Krentha read the report twice before calling an emergency meeting of the Strategic Council. The senior hegemony leadership gathered in their war room deep beneath the capital city, expecting to discuss standard military intelligence about human defensive capabilities. Gentleman, Captain Vexhall has submitted a most unusual analysis of human operations, Admiral Krentha announced to the assembled officers. His conclusions challenge our fundamental understanding of enemy psychology and tactics. General Velkarn leaned forward with interest. What did the captain discover about human military capabilities? That is precisely the problem, Krentha replied. According to Vexhall, the humans do not think in military terms at all. They approach every situation from a completely different perspective. The Admiral activated a holographic display showing key sections of Vexhall's report. The text described human behavior that seemed impossible according to hegemony strategic doctrine. "The humans repaired our destroyer," Krentha read aloud. "They upgraded our systems beyond original specifications. They shared medical knowledge that could save thousands of hegemony lives. They provided technical intelligence worth millions of credits. They asked for nothing in return except standard repair fees." "Impossible," General Velkarn declared. "No species helps their enemies without expecting something in return. Vexhall has been compromised somehow." Intelligence Director Morgath shook his head. "We have similar reports from other sources. Our deep cover agents confirm that humans routinely provide superior service to all species, including those hostile to human interests. Then they are gathering intelligence," suggested Fleet Commander Zekton. "These repair facilities must be elaborate spy operations designed to study alien technology." "Our technical analysis contradicts that theory," Morgath replied. "Examination of ships repaired by humans shows genuine improvements with no evidence of surveillance devices or data theft. The humans actually make alien vessels more capable than before. The council members struggled to comprehend behavior that contradicted everything they understood about interspecies relations. In their experience, strength meant dominance, and helping enemies represented weakness that invited attack. "Perhaps they fear us," offered General Velkarn. "These gestures might be attempts to avoid conflict through appeasement." Admiral Krentha consulted additional intelligence reports. "Our psychological profiles suggest otherwise. Human repair facilities operate with complete confidence in their security. They show no signs of fear or defensive behavior." "Then what do they want?" demanded Fleet Commander Zekton. "Every species seeks advantage over their competitors. What advantage do humans gain from helping us?" Intelligence Director Morgath displayed analysis from multiple sources, including the changeling agent Tethamor, who had investigated human operations. "According to our behavioral studies, humans appear to derive satisfaction from solving problems and helping others. Their motivation seems to be internal rather than strategic." "You are suggesting they help enemies because they enjoy it," General Velkarn said incredulously. "I am suggesting they do not view other species as enemies," Morgath corrected. "Humans categorize beings as friends, potential friends, or problems to be solved. They do not maintain the permanent adversarial relationships that dominate galactic politics." Admiral Krentha studied the psychological profiles with growing unease. If the analysis was correct, humans represented something unprecedented in galactic history, a species that gained influence through service rather than conquest, a civilization that built loyalty through kindness rather than fear. "What threat level should we assign to human expansion?" asked Fleet Commander Zekton. "That is the central question," Krentha replied. "Traditional threat assessment focuses on military capabilities and aggressive intentions. Humans possess moderate military strength but show no desire for territorial conquest. Then they are not a threat," General Velkarn concluded. "On the contrary, they may be the greatest threat we have ever faced," Krentha said grimly. "Military force can be countered with superior weapons. Economic pressure can be resisted through resource control. But how do you fight an enemy that wins loyalty by earning it?" The council chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. Hegemony power rested on fear and intimidation backed by superior military force. Citizens obeyed because rebellion meant destruction. Alien species cooperated because resistance was futile. Humans offered a completely different model of civilization. They gained influence by providing value to others. They built relationships based on mutual benefit rather than dominance. They treated former enemies as potential friends rather than permanent threats. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked General Velkarn after a long pause. Admiral Krentha considered the question carefully. "Continue monitoring human activities, but take no hostile action. We need to understand their methods before we can counter them. And if they continue expanding their influence," pressed Fleet Commander Zekton, "then we may need to learn from them," Krentha admitted reluctantly. "If kindness proves more effective than cruelty, our entire civilization may need to adapt. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Captain Zethkar received an encrypted communication from Valorian Fleet Command. The message summoned him to an immediate meeting with Senior Admiralty regarding his experiences with human repair facilities. The Valorian leadership had noticed the dramatic improvements in ships returning from human space. Crystal hulls showed enhanced strength and durability. Engines operated with increased efficiency. Weapon systems demonstrated improved accuracy and power. Most intriguingly, crew morale ratings had increased significantly after visits to human stations. "Captain Zethkar, your ship has become a showcase for human modifications," Admiral Tekvar observed during the briefing. "Our engineers are studying your vessel to understand human techniques." The humans freely shared their methods. Admiral Zethkar replied. They provided complete technical specifications for every improvement they made. Without payment or trade agreements? Admiral Tekvar asked. They considered the knowledge exchange sufficient compensation, Zeth-Kar explained. They learned about our crystal technology while we learned about their metallurgy and systems integration. The Valorian Admiralty exchanged glances. Such open sharing of advanced technology violated every principle of strategic advantage that guided galactic politics. Captain, what is your assessment of human intentions? Asked Fleet Intelligence Chief Mordek. They seek to build relationships through mutual benefit, Zeth-Kar replied. Humans view other species as potential partners rather than competitors, or threats. And you believe this approach is genuine, Mordek pressed. I have seen no evidence of deception, Zeth-Kar said. Their actions consistently match their stated values. They treat visitors as honored guests and work to exceed expectations rather than merely fulfill contracts. Admiral Tekvar leaned back in his chair thoughtfully. Captain, we are considering establishing formal relations with human space. Your experiences suggest such cooperation could benefit both our peoples. Zeth-Kar nodded enthusiastically. Admiral, I believe the humans would welcome such discussions. They expressed interest in learning more about Valorian culture and technology. The meeting concluded with orders for Zeth-Kar to serve as an unofficial ambassador to human space. His mission would be to explore opportunities for expanded cooperation while maintaining Valorian interests and security. As he prepared to return to his ship, Zeth-Kar reflected on how much had changed since his first encounter with Station Perseus. What had begun as an emergency repair had evolved into a new understanding of interspecies relations and the possibilities for peaceful cooperation. 2 years after his first visit to Station Perseus, Captain Zeth-Kar commanded a ship that had become legendary throughout Valorian space. The stellar dominance bore the marks of 6 different human upgrade cycles, each building upon previous improvements, to create something extraordinary. The crystal hull now incorporated human metallurgical techniques that made it virtually indestructible. Valorian weapons systems, enhanced with human targeting computers, achieved accuracy rates previously thought impossible. The ship's life support systems had been optimized through human medical research to provide perfect environmental conditions for extended deep space missions. More importantly, the stellar dominance served as a mobile showcase for human Valorian cooperation. Engineering teams from both species worked together aboard the ship, developing new technologies that neither could have created alone. The vessel had become a symbol of what peaceful collaboration could achieve. Standing in his ready room reviewing the latest cooperation agreements, Zeth-Kar smiled as he remembered his initial skepticism about human capabilities. What had seemed like primitive technology and naive idealism had proven to be sophisticated engineering combined with brilliant psychology. Captain, we are receiving a priority transmission from Valorian Fleet Command, announced Communications. Officer Krextol, who had been promoted to senior staff after his recovery at Station Perseus. Display it here, Zeth-Kar ordered. Admiral Tekvar appeared on the communications screen, wearing an expression of satisfaction mixed with amazement. Captain Zeth-Kar, I have remarkable news. The Nexari Trade Guild has formally requested to join our cooperation agreement with human space. Zeth-Kar felt his mandibles click with surprise. The entire Trade Guild Admiral. Captain Veltar convinced their leadership that human partnership offers advantages that traditional competitive relationships cannot match. Tekvar explained. Their cargo efficiency has improved by 40%. Since they began using human-modified ships, the news represented a significant expansion of human influence throughout the galaxy. The Nexari Trade Guild controlled shipping routes that connected dozens of star systems. Their adoption of human standards would expose countless species to new approaches to business and diplomacy. Sir, there is more, Admiral Tekvar continued. We have received informal inquiries from the Tellarite Engineering Consortium, the Vulcan Science Academy, and even several independent Klingon houses. It seems human repair facilities have gained quite a reputation. Zethkar nodded thoughtfully. During his travels, he had encountered ships from numerous species bearing the distinctive improvements that marked human workmanship. Word was spreading through every spacefaring civilization about the remarkable quality and innovation found in human space. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Zethkar asked. "Continue your current mission, but expand your scope," Tekvar replied. "We want you to facilitate meetings between human representatives and interested species. Your ship will serve as a neutral meeting ground for initial discussions." After the transmission ended, Zethkar walked to his observation deck, where he could see the stars streaming past as the stellar dominance traveled at high warp. His ship moved through space with unprecedented smoothness, thanks to human modifications to the warp field generators. His contemplation was interrupted by the arrival of Chief Engineer Korthak, a Valorian who had spent 3 months training with human technicians at Luna Base. The young officer had returned with new skills and fresh perspectives that challenged traditional Valorian engineering approaches. "Captain, I have completed my analysis of the latest human propulsion theories," Korthak reported. "They have developed techniques for improving warp field stability that could increase our maximum speed by 15%. "Impressive," Zethkar replied. "Are the modifications compatible with our existing systems?" "Not only compatible, but synergistic," Korthak said enthusiastically. "Human engineers designed the improvements specifically to work with Valorian crystal matrices. They spent weeks studying our technology to understand how to enhance it rather than replace it." The approach exemplified human thinking that Zethkar had observed repeatedly. Rather than imposing their own solutions, humans adapted their knowledge to complement existing technologies. They built upon what others had created instead of demanding complete system replacements. "Schedule the modifications for our next visit to Station Perseus," Zethkar ordered. "I want Chief Park to oversee the installation personally." 3 weeks later, the stellar dominance arrived at Station Perseus for its 7th upgrade cycle. The familiar sight of orbital Station Perseus brought back memories of that first desperate visit, when his ship had barely been spaceworthy. Commander Jake Morrison met him at the airlock with the same warm welcome he had shown 2 years earlier. The human station commander looked older, but his enthusiasm for solving engineering challenges remained undimmed. "Captain Zethkar, welcome back to Perseus," Morrison said with a genuine smile. "Lisa has been reviewing your latest modification requests, and she's practically bouncing off the walls with excitement." Chief Engineer Lisa Park appeared as if summoned by the mention of her name, carrying a tablet filled with technical diagrams and theoretical calculations. Her eyes sparkled with the joy of an engineer facing a fascinating new challenge. "Captain Zethkar, the propulsion modifications are going to be amazing," she announced. "We've run computer simulations, and the improvements should give you capabilities that no other ship in the galaxy possesses." As the upgrade work proceeded, Zethkar noticed changes in the station itself. New sections had been added to accommodate different alien physiologies. The Valorian-compatible areas had been expanded and improved based on feedback from multiple visits. A Nexari quantum storage research lab occupied an entire deck where human and Nexari scientists worked together on revolutionary cargo technologies. Most remarkably, the station now hosted permanent liaison offices for 6 different species. Representatives from various governments maintained ongoing communication with human engineers to coordinate technology sharing and joint research projects. "Commander Morrison, your station has grown considerably," Zethkar observed during their evening meeting. "We've had to expand to keep up with demand," Morrison replied. "Ships are booking repair slots months in advance, and we're getting requests for permanent research partnerships almost daily. You have created something unprecedented," Zethkar said. "A neutral ground where former enemies work together for mutual benefit." Morrison nodded thoughtfully. "It started with just wanting to do good work, but it's become something much larger. We're proving that cooperation works better than competition for everyone involved." The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the communications center. A massive fleet was approaching human space, flying the colors of multiple species, but maintaining strict formation discipline. "Sir, we have 47 ships requesting simultaneous docking," reported Communications Officer Brad Cooper. "The formation includes Valorian, Nexari, Tellarite, and Vulcan vessels, plus several I don't recognize." Morrison and Zethkar hurried to the command center where tactical displays showed the approaching fleet. The mixed formation represented unprecedented cooperation between species that had rarely worked together in the past. "Commander Morrison, this is Captain Veltar of the Nexari Trade Guild," came a transmission from the lead ship. "We bring representatives from the Galactic Cooperation Initiative requesting permission to hold our first joint conference at your station." Zethkar felt his heart race with excitement. The formation approaching Station Perseus represented the culmination of everything that had begun with a simple emergency repair 2 years earlier. Species that had maintained suspicious distance for centuries were coming together to explore. "New forms of cooperation. Permission granted, Captain Veltar," Morrison replied. "Station Perseus is honored to host your conference." As the diverse fleet began docking procedures, Zethkar realized he was witnessing the beginning of a new era in galactic history. Human principles of cooperation and mutual benefit were spreading throughout civilized space, creating possibilities that had never existed before. The question was no longer why alien captains chose human repair bays. The question was how quickly the rest of the galaxy could learn to follow their example. In the depths of space, reputation traveled faster than any starship, and the phrase "human standard" had entered every galactic language as synonymous with excellence, innovation, and genuine care. Not because humans possessed superior technology, but because they understood something fundamental about civilization itself: the difference between providing a service and creating an experience, the power of treating others as valued partners rather than temporary customers, the strength that came from building relationships based on mutual respect and shared benefit. Standing on the observation deck, watching dozens of ships from across the galaxy dock peacefully at a human station, Zethkar smiled at the elegant simplicity of it all. Sometimes the most profound changes began with the smallest gestures: a warm welcome to a damaged ship, an engineer curious enough to ask questions, a doctor willing to adapt her station for alien visitors. Kindness as a revolutionary force, cooperation as a competitive advantage, service as a form of strength.